I hear about Christine falling in love and getting married and stuff like this, and I'm like going, well, good on Christine. Janelle was a different story. I always thought, I just felt like Janelle and I could have worked it out.
So I finally got around to watching the latest episode, and honestly, Kody's behavior just blew my mind. At one point, he said things that made me think, how can someone be this out of touch with reality? Especially after Janelle clearly told him she was done. Yet here he is, acting like there's still a chance between them. It's almost pathetic, really, he badmouths her nonstop, but somehow still seems convinced reconciliation is on the table. And the things he says on camera, like admitting he once thought about screwing her over financially, it just doesn't make sense if he truly wanted to repair anything. That scene where Janelle laughed at his suggestion of having a love affair, man, that must have stung deep. He seems like the worst kind of desperate. What's wild is how Robyn fits into all this. She acts like she didn't really notice Kody's schedule or who he was staying with because she was fine either way, but then hints that it upset some of the other wives. It felt like such a dismissive thing to say. And when it came up that she contributed a lot financially in the early years, it felt totally unconvincing. I mean, no one's buying clothes from anyone's closet, right? Janelle, for one, seems perfectly fine being single. She's not looking to remarry or have a husband around. She's happy with her family and business, living on her own terms. That independence feels like something she values a lot after all she's been through. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel Reality Nexus X. It's interesting to think about why Janelle keeps some connection with Kody, though. She's left the family before and come back a couple of times, so maybe Kody's always believed she would return no matter what. She still calls him honey sometimes, and they've gone out together even after big fights. There's a sense that while she's moved on emotionally, there's some residual bond, or maybe just familiarity that keeps them somewhat tied. But it's clear she's not interested in the kind of full-on relationship Kody seems to want. There's also this complicated dynamic about Kody's personality. He comes off as a showman, someone who stirs the pot just to get attention. The cruel things he says and the manipulations, it's like he thrives on the drama. And despite all this, he somehow still imagines himself as this irresistible figure. Some think he never really loved any of the original wives, only Robyn, and that his feelings were pretty conditional. It's been said that Janelle saw him as a good dad in some ways, but the real hard work of parenting was mostly on the moms. Plus, his behavior, like talking about teasing Robyn in a towel or making weird comments about his own attractiveness, just adds to this bizarre self-image he seems to have. What really stands out is how Janelle seems to have come to terms with her independence. She's described as someone who doesn't want to sacrifice her space for a husband again. Instead, she might want a gentleman friend, someone to go out with occasionally, but who respects her boundaries. She's comfortable being a grandma, focusing on her flower farm and family. That's a far cry from the drama Kody is still clinging to. Meanwhile, the tension between Kody and the rest of the family feels like it's partly rooted in his inability to accept his own role in how things fell apart. He seems fixated on the idea that others, especially Robyn, are the reasons the family fractured, but many see it as his actions and words that really blew things up. Even when Mary got a legal release from him, which he insisted he wanted, he couldn't handle it emotionally. That was a big moment revealing how controlling and emotionally inconsistent he really is. All in all, this season is showing a side of Kody that's less polished and more raw. He's a man who's desperate for control, attention, and validation, but increasingly isolated because of it. The others, especially Janelle, seem to be moving on in their own ways, choosing peace and independence over chaos. It makes you wonder how much of their lives and choices are influenced by the cameras and the show itself. Some things feel scripted or exaggerated, but underneath it all are real emotions and complicated relationships. At the end of the day, maybe the most hopeful thing is that at least some of them, like Janelle, have found a way to be content on their own terms, free from the drama that once defined their lives. There's this interesting conversation about which of the kids involved really holds the most revealing or potentially damning information about their family, kind of like who could burn it all to the ground if they ever decided to spill the truth. It's a topic that's come up a lot, and people have quite a few theories about who might know the most secrets and who might be willing to share them. To start, there's a general sense that some of the kids are more outspoken than others. For example, Christine's children tend to be more public and candid, so if they had any shocking revelations left, they probably would have already shared them, except maybe Aspen, who's known to be more diplomatic and could possibly have insights we don't know yet. But even then, considering how much Christine's side has already revealed, it might not be earth-shattering. Then there's Leon, who seems to have a deep well of knowledge about long-standing family issues, like the catfish situation and the complicated history between Mary and Kody. But Mary herself has started sharing enough to lessen the surprise of what Leon might know. Still, Leon stands out because of his distance from the family image and his experience, especially given the rumors about how he's been treated due to his identity. Dayton is another one people mention often. He's been quiet in recent years, but is believed to have keen insight into the family's dynamics, especially regarding the Shira Chateau and Robyn's first marriage. There's curiosity about his true feelings on the adoption and the family's move to Flagstaff, topics he hasn't publicly addressed. His story is complicated by rumors and misunderstandings, like one about him living with his biological dad, which actually started as a misheard comment. Then there are Gabe and Logan, who many see as key figures because of their close relationships with Kody at different points. Logan, being the oldest and having held a lot of responsibility from a young age, is thought to have been almost like a fifth parent with access to a lot of inside information. People imagine that if he chose to speak out, it would be with a lot of credibility and careful thought. He's seen as mature and diplomatic, so while he might know a lot, he probably wouldn't share anything just for drama's sake. Gabe, on the other hand, is viewed as more emotional and less guarded, having had a front row seat to the family's breakdown. He might be more willing to open up, but again, there's a sense that he comes from a place of vulnerability rather than simply wanting to spill secrets. Hunter, Janelle's son, also comes up in the conversation as someone who could reveal important truths. He's described as a straightforward person, someone who doesn't shy away from telling things as they are, especially when it comes to his complicated relationship with Kody and the family's struggles. His military background and no-nonsense attitude add weight to the idea that his perspective would be raw and honest. Many feel that the kids tend to protect their biological mothers, so it's unlikely they'd reveal much that's negative about them. Christine's kids, for instance, might only speak critically for the right reasons or incentives, but their loyalty makes it hard to trust any potential drama they might share. Similarly, Robyn's children are thought to be heavily influenced by her, wearing Robyn-colored glasses, so their accounts might be biased or incomplete. Isabel stands out a bit because she's already shared frustrations about her mother oversharing negativity about her dad, and seems less interested in pretending everything is perfect. She might be one of the more candid voices among the younger generation. Others mention Savannah as a good candidate to spill insights, as she's known to be a good listener, on relatively good terms with most of the family, and someone who's overheard many things living in close quarters with her mother. Her ability to stay silent despite knowing a lot could make her a potential source of hidden truths if she ever chose to share. There's also curiosity about Ariella, the youngest, who is described as having no filter and potentially having witnessed a lot firsthand. The problem, of course, is getting her to speak freely away from parental influence. Amid all these personal dynamics, some attention has shifted to more peculiar aspects of the family, such as Robyn's unusual hobby of collecting and dressing dolls, spending thousands of dollars on doll clothes, and engaging with these dolls online. This has added a layer of discomfort or disbelief among observers, who see this behavior as a strange extension of how she infantilizes her children and controls her household. Some even speculate this could symbolize how she wants her children to be like dolls, objects without true identities or autonomy. Despite all the speculation about who could reveal the most, there's a sense that many of these kids would hold back for various reasons: loyalty, fear of family backlash, or simply choosing to move on with their lives quietly. Logan, in particular, is seen as the one with the most knowledge, but also the greatest discretion, unlikely to spill the tea publicly, even if he could. Overall, the family situation seems too complex for any one person to paint a full picture. With multiple mothers, households, and sets of siblings, each child's perspective is limited by their unique experiences and loyalties. Still, the stories they carry, whether shared or kept silent, shape the complicated reality behind the scenes. It's an intricate web of relationships, secrets, and unspoken truths, leaving anyone curious about what really goes on to wonder how much of the full story will ever be told. Lately, there's been a lot of talk about the possibility of a new spin-off show centered around Kody and Robyn. The idea stems from how Robyn keeps bringing up the idea of Kody returning to polygamy, even though he has repeatedly said he's done with it. She's asked him multiple times this season if he's sure about stepping away, and the previews for upcoming episodes suggest she'll ask again. It almost feels like a nudge, like she's encouraging him to keep trying, maybe to keep some kind of storyline or momentum going. At the same time, the rest of the family seems to be drifting away from the spotlight. The older kids appear less interested in the show, and the other wives have found their own paths, launching businesses or developing new income streams. With all of that, it looks like the main series might be winding down soon, possibly after this upcoming season. So the idea is that if the show ends, a spin-off focusing just on Kody and Robyn might follow, perhaps revolving around Kody looking for a new wife at Robyn's urging, mostly to keep the TLC paycheck flowing. But reactions to this theory are mixed, to say the least. Some people find the whole idea off-putting or even repellent, but admit that after following these stories for so long, they probably watch out of curiosity, watching the slow crash of the train, so to speak. Others have stopped watching the show altogether because of the dynamics between Kody and Robyn, especially how Robyn keeps pushing plural marriage while Kody seems uninterested. There's also a sense that Robyn wouldn't really allow a younger, more attractive wife into their family after the battle she's fought with the other wives in past seasons. The idea that she'd go through another war like that seems unlikely. Some think she just talks about plural marriage to keep the show's drama alive and the money coming in, rather than out of genuine belief. It's suggested that any new wife scenario would be purely for the cameras and not something real or sustainable. Financial concerns also come up a lot in the discussion. The family's spending, particularly on a large mansion with sky-high utilities and mortgage costs, makes some wonder how long they can keep up their lifestyle once the show ends. There's skepticism about whether Kody is truly financially secure, and many predict a rough future if the money from the show dries up. The question of whether either Kody or Robyn would ever get a real job to support their lifestyle is raised sarcastically, as the money from the show and related ventures has been the main source for years. People also wonder about Kody's ego and emotional state. Some believe that Kody is miserable without multiple sources of attention, the adoration from the other wives, the large family, and the audience. Now with just Robyn, who might not provide the same level of admiration she did when she was the newest and youngest wife, he seems restless or unhappy. There's speculation that Kody might actually want another wife to boost his ego, but Robyn has the power to shut that down. or at least control any potential new wife's role carefully. Robyn herself is seen as complicated. On one hand, she keeps hinting at plural marriage, but on the other, many feel she prefers being the only wife now, enjoying the spotlight and control that comes with it. She's portrayed as someone who wouldn't tolerate sharing Kody again, especially with a younger woman who could displace her position in the family. Some think she says what she does on camera to appear innocent or to shift blame for the family's issues onto the other wives. Looking at Kody's beliefs and faith, there's doubt about how much he really believes in the polygamous religion or the faith behind it. Some suggest that Kody went along with it more for ego reasons when he was younger and now is just tired of it or unsure. Robyn, meanwhile, may still believe in the religious ideas, or she may use them as a way to keep things going for the show and for financial reasons. Many express fatigue with the show and its current direction, feeling that the drama has become repetitive and that the main stories have run dry. There's hope among some fans to see more focus on the original wives, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, and their lives outside of Kody and Robyn's orbit. Some imagine a spin-off that follows these women pursuing independence, businesses, and new relationships, rather than another season of Kody and Robyn. There's also skepticism about whether a spin-off featuring Kody and Robyn would even last long or be successful. Some think it would flop quickly and be canceled after a season or less, given the lack of compelling content and the dwindling interest from viewers. Others feel that if it did happen, it would revolve more around staged drama, fake attempts to find new wives, or Robyn trying to control everything behind the scenes. Finally, there's a sense that no matter what happens, the family dynamics have changed so much that continuing the show, or even a spin-off, feels like watching a slow unraveling. The relationships are strained, the faith is questioned, and the motivations seem tangled between personal desires, financial needs, and the pressure to keep a fading storyline alive. So there's this situation with Robyn, who's part of a big blended family, and it's really about how she handled food and money, especially groceries, and how that affected the kids. From what I gathered, Robyn had a pretty intense way of managing family resources, almost like she was hoarding them. For example, she was known to stash snacks away and set very strict limits on what the older kids, let's call them the original group, could eat. At the same time, her own kids seemed to get better treatment with food, which created a clear divide in the household. There's a notable story about a dinner at the family's ranch in Wyoming. The family had a protocol where the ranch workers were supposed to eat first after a hard day's work. But Robyn pushed her kids ahead in line, which led to a quiet but firm reprimand from one of the older wives. That didn't sit well with her, showing how protective she was of her own kids' needs and how resistant she was to compromise on the family's existing rules. What's interesting is that people who observed this situation compared Robyn's approach to having off-limits, snacks, or a separate stash. That's common in big families where some treats are meant to be rationed for lunchboxes or special occasions, but Robyn seemed to apply her own set of rules without much flexibility, which upset the original family dynamic. One of the more upsetting points was that while Robyn complained about the original kids eating what was essentially cheap, generic cereal, snack-sized portions, her own daughter was often seen eating a proper sandwich with chips. This wasn't lost on observers, who felt that it was unfair and hurtful to the other kids to see this kind of favoritism, especially since it was happening right in front of them. Many noted that Robyn's obsession with saving grocery money was taken to an extreme. Despite having a fridge and pantry stocked with food, nothing was really meant to be eaten freely. This contrasted sharply with how her kids were fed, often first and with better quality food. The others were restricted to the bare minimum or lesser snacks, which came off as controlling and stingy. There was also a broader sense that Robyn's entry into the family brought a shift. She didn't quite integrate with the other wives or the original kids, and seemed to want her own rules for her children. Some felt she was more focused on securing financial benefits and special treatment, rather than genuinely blending into the family or caring for all the kids equally. People reflected on how this behavior felt particularly harsh, considering the reality of food insecurity many families face. Using food as a way to control or punish children, especially in a family setting, was seen as damaging and heartbreaking. Beyond the food and money issues, there was a wider discussion about the family dynamics, with Kody, Robyn's partner, being criticized for not standing up to these issues or for favoring Robyn and her children. Observers noticed he was often critical of the other wives and their kids, but rarely addressed problems related to Robyn's kids. This created an imbalance in how the family was managed and led to feelings of resentment. Others pointed out how Robyn seemed to keep her children separated from the original family, with different rules and privileges, further highlighting a lack of unity. Some described her as controlling, always seeking to maintain power over resources and attention, while the other wives seemed to tolerate it because of the family's complicated structure. What really struck many was how this was all captured on camera. Robyn's behavior was visible and seemingly deliberate. It wasn't some hidden struggle, but something she allowed to be filmed, which made the situation feel even more real and raw. At the heart of this, there's a reflection on what it means to be part of a blended family and how trust, fairness, and sharing resources are crucial. When one person tries to control or hoard at the expense of others, especially children who depend on the adults for care, it can create deep wounds and lasting divisions. It's a tough situation to watch and think about how much damage can be done by something as simple yet fundamental as who gets to eat what and when. It reminds us how important kindness and equality are in any family setting, especially one as complex as this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.